Latina, but I didn't read my first novel by a Latina author until I was 12 years old. It was The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, and it changed my life. In fact, I still remember reading the whole book in one sitting instead of breaking it up into chapters. I remember the red of Esperanza's house. I remember how it felt to be seen in the pages of this book about a girl like me, this Mexican-American girl growing up in the US who wanted nothing more than to become a writer. And for the first time, I became visible. I realized that my life mattered, that the stories of my community were worth telling, and most importantly, I realized that I wanted to be a writer too. This story did not happen by accident, nor is it in any way unique. According to the New York Times, just 11% of books published in 2018 were written by writers of color. And in 2023, according to a report from the Government Accountability Office, only 5% of authors, illustrators, and translators from the 5 biggest publishing houses in the US were Latinx. 5%, when Latinos make up almost 20% of this country's total population. To me, that is proof that the literature we're reading is failing to represent our world. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why does that matter? Or perhaps, is it even possible to represent everyone when there are close to 8 billion people in the world? Honestly, I'd argue that it's not only possible, but essential. I'd argue that it is the duty and responsibility of literature to be inclusive and equitable. Because why would you only ever want to read stories about people exactly like you, who grew up exactly like you did, who have the job you do? I mean, isn't the whole point of literature to escape our reality? We can only benefit from uplifting diverse stories. Did you know that according to a study from the Education Trust, diverse books lead to greater engagement in the classroom? Yeah, not only do students read more, but they're also able to retain vocabulary better and improve their reading comprehension. And if publishers want to make more money, they should know that. According to a report from the Panorama Project, Latinx readers are among those who engage with books more than any other ethnic group in the US. At the beginning of COVID, we were behind the largest increase in book sales in this country in over a decade. We want to read books. But even more than that, we want to read books about our cultures, our experiences, our ways of looking at the world. Of course, as I learned as a 12-year-old, stories don't just come out of nowhere. Instead, they go something like this. Someone comes up with an idea, they write that story down, they share it with someone who reads it and becomes their first reader. And the cycle repeats itself again and again and again. Some people say that writers are born, not made. Personally, I believe that writers are made at the same time their stories are, that it's not the title of a writer that defines us, but what we choose to do with it. So, here are 2 brave actions that you can take and how you can turn them into brilliance. First, I encourage you today to go beyond just demanding diversity from the industry. We are way past overdue to be writing down our own stories. For some, that might look like journaling about your day in a notebook. Maybe it's recording yourself on your phone, recounting a childhood memory, and then editing the written transcript. Maybe it's inviting your friend to lunch and swapping stories about all the times you got in trouble with your parents, and then going home and writing down as much as you can remember. We're telling stories all the time, probably have been for our whole lives. The only difference now is that you're writing them down so that they might be included in the canon of our history, our humanity. And for those of you who don't know where to start, I've found that there is no better way to learn how to write than by following others' example. Today, I also encourage you to read 1 book a month by an author whose background is different from your own. Now I know that up to this point, I've shown you how little diversity exists in the industry today. But I firmly believe that this brave move of overcoming that barrier and finding, reading, and supporting books by diverse authors can lead to brilliance, not only because it can show the industry just how important these stories are to everyone, but also because it can make you a better human being. I mean, come on, remember the last time you had an argument with a friend or family member that you thought would never get resolved until you had to see things from their point of view? It's the same thing with diverse reading. We step into someone else's shoes, see things from their perspective, and expand our own understanding of ourselves and those around us. After all, how can we move through our communities, our government policies, our daily interactions if the diversity of the world is not accurately represented in our social consciousness, which is in large part dictated by what we read? The truth is, nothing will ever change unless we use our voices to do something about it. We are the storytellers that we've been waiting for. We are the ones who can change the stories that are written about the world. And there has never been a better time than now to create the literature that we deserve. So I ask you, what story will you tell? Thank you.